morning. Yes, so as you perhaps have gathered, I feel we've taken in so much this morning. It's been such a rich morning, but we just need to focus our minds now on this study that we're doing, this continuous study on the armor of God. And this morning we're doing the shield of faith. The shield of faith. If you look up the word faith in a dictionary, in any dictionary, you'll find more than one meaning. Several meanings, 3 or 4 different meanings to the word faith. Webster's dictionary, apparently, which is the main American one, has recently added a definition to the word faith. It now defines faith it has 3 definitions, and then the last one, the one that it's just added, is faith is also, the word faith is used to talk about a belief not based on evidence. A purely groundless belief, therefore, not very far removed, perhaps, from wishful thinking. And that is what a lot of people, particularly non-Christians, particularly atheists, will understand when they talk about our faith. But it's the wrong thing. It's not the right definition. Dictionaries, as I say, give a range of definitions. And when we talk about our faith, we're thinking of something else. We're thinking of a strong belief in the doctrines of a religion based on spiritual conviction. A strong belief in the doctrines of a religion based on a spiritual conviction. So a Christian's faith, our faith, is spiritual. It's a spiritual conviction. And it is also actually provable. It is mainly provable beyond reasonable doubt. It's a set of specific beliefs, many of them grounded in historical evidence, as well as, and all of them then, also proved by spiritual experience. They are beliefs that are so firmly held that the believer bases their life on the perspective that these beliefs give to what life is about. In Corinthians, Paul says, "For we live by faith, not by sight." So faith is something we live by. It is our life. So faith is a concept that's perceived by a spiritual sense. You can't see it physically. Or as the writer to the Hebrews memorably puts it, faith is confidence in what we hope for, assurance about what we do not see. So what is the Christian faith? First of all, we have to know what it is. Do we know what we believe? We believe, firstly, that God is the creator, that he formed the universe. In Corinthians again, Paul says, "By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible." So in addition to that, in addition to believing that God is the creator of all things, we also believe that Jesus is the Messiah, that he was part of the triune Godhead. He was the Son of God, who came to live on earth, to teach us about the kingdom of God, to demonstrate God's love for us by dying to atone for our sins, to redeem us, so that we can have a relationship with a holy God. We also believe that he rose from the dead, proving that he had conquered death, and that he therefore made a way for us to walk with him, to work with him in this life, and to spend eternity with him in the next. That's our faith. And Jesus says we are blessed to have it. Jesus doesn't often talk about us, but he does in 1 or 2 places in the New Testament. When the Apostle Thomas expresses doubt about the resurrection because he hasn't seen the risen Jesus, when he does see him and is invited to touch the wounds in Jesus' side and his hands, and he falls down and worships Jesus. He says, "My Lord, my God." And Jesus says to him, "Do you remember? You believe because you see, but blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe." And that's us, isn't it? We have not seen Jesus physically, but we believe, and we are blessed. Jesus says we are blessed. We have the testimony. It's not complete. We're not believing something on the basis of no evidence at all. We have the testimony, don't we, of those who have seen. We have the testimony in the Gospels, the Acts of the Apostles. In the letter, in Peter's letter, one of his first letters, he talks about the Transfiguration, which was a transformative moment in his Christian life. He says, "We did not follow cleverly invented stories when we told you about the power and coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. We were eyewitnesses of his majesty. For he received honor and glory from God the Father when the voice came to him from the majestic glory, saying, 'This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased.' We ourselves heard this voice that came from heaven, and we were with him on the sacred mountain." Peter saw. We have not seen with our eyes, but we continue to see with our hearts, with our spirits. And we know that faith is vitally important because Jesus evaluated people's faith. As he met people in the Gospels, he would evaluate whether they had little faith or whether they had great faith. And I believe he does the same for us. He looks at our hearts and he thinks, does this person have little faith or do they have great faith so that I can do more with them? You remember when Jesus calmed the storm and the disciples were terrified. He said to them, "You have little faith. Why are you so afraid?" Then he gets up and rebukes the waves. When a prostitute comes to him and washes his feet and repents, he says, "Your faith has saved you." He can see what faith she has. And when the group of friends carry their paralyzed friend and break through the roof and lower the friend down, it says, when Jesus saw their faith, he saw their faith, that they had the faith that he could heal their friend. So, as usual with spiritual concepts like this, Paul and the other letter writers of the New Testament had to find creative ways to explain what they meant by Christian faith. They tended to use metaphor, imagery, describing a concept, abstract concept, in terms of something that we can see in order to explain what faith is. We can't see it, so how do we describe it? How is it that some people have this faith and others can't seem to come to faith? First of all, faith is described as a gift. It's a gift from God to be asked for and then to be open to be received. Have we asked for faith? Have we asked for more faith? And do we realize what a gift it is? In Ephesians, Paul writes, "For by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is a gift of God, not of works, lest anyone should boast." We can't earn faith. We have to be humble and open to receive it, and we have to ask for it. Other writers talk about faith being a muscle to be exercised. Paul was particularly keen on sport, and he talks about our faith becoming stronger as we exercise it. His letters had as their aim to make believers stronger. "I want to write something to you to make you strong," he says. He commends people, he admonishes them, he encourages them. Jude, the writer Jude, also tells his reader to build yourselves up in your most holy faith. We need to be built up. So it's like a physical exercise. Some people describe it as a journey to be undertaken step by step. We become more experienced in exercising faith as we step out. We talk about stepping out in faith in different situations. And Jesus also talked about faith as a mustard seed. It's something that we need to nurture, and it will grow. It perhaps starts off very small, but it grows larger. Our faith starts off small, but then when we nurture it, it grows. The mustard seed, in Jesus' example, symbolizes the potential in faith. So, finally getting to the point, in Ephesians chapter 6, where he outlines the armor of God, Paul talks about faith as a shield. And this is also used by Peter in his first letter. He talks about those who, through faith, are shielded by God's power. Now, this image has implications. If faith is acting as a shield, it's because we are in a battle, a spiritual battle, which is fought with spiritual weapons. And with a shield, we're on the defensive, aren't we? It's essentially a defensive weapon. I mean, you can bop somebody over the head with a shield, but usually soldiers just stood there behind it. We use our faith to protect us from spiritual attack. And Paul vividly depicts us as a Roman soldier using a shield. Now, Roman shields were not the little round metal discs that we perhaps imagine. I noticed the picture in the newsletter was of a round metal shield with a metal covering. Roman shields were not like that at all. They were rectangular, and they were huge. They were from here down to your knees. And they were slightly curved, so it's like standing in half a drain pipe. And that was a cunning plan, because anything that hit it would then bounce off it rather than stick into it. And where was I? Yeah, it protected you. It protected the fighter from the chin to the knees. If they knelt down, it protected them completely. Now, no Roman shields have been found in archaeological sites anywhere in the world. I mean, there must have been hundreds of thousands of them, and none have been found. We know that they were that shape because they're depicted on sculptures like Trajan's column. So we know what they look like, but we never found one. Why? Because they're not made out of metal or pottery. They're made out of wood. And they were made out of layers of wood fused together. So plywood, in fact, which is extremely strong and was able to be curved. So it was light. They were able to use it very easily, but they were vulnerable to it catching fire. The enemy eventually worked out that if they set fire to the shields, then the soldier had a real problem. Whereas if they just tried to hit it with their axe, nothing would happen. So this became a common problem for Roman soldiers. They had to think about deflecting these flame-tipped arrows. And this is the image that Paul uses. He uses the image of a Roman soldier with a huge protective shield, deflecting burning arrows, or as we used to call them, fiery darts. It's an expression that Christians often use, isn't it? Fiery darts. So what did Paul mean? He meant that we are in a battle, that we are prone to these things coming at us, that we are susceptible to being attacked by the powers of evil, by the dark forces of this world. Often in the Christian life, it's quite difficult to recognize these fiery darts, these flaming arrows, for what they are, because sometimes it's not obvious. You think it's coming from within, but actually it's coming from outside. You think it's coming from a friend, when in fact it's coming from the powers of evil. And so recognizing your fiery darts is something that we need to be aware of. The ones that come from other people are perhaps the most easily recognized. There are things like criticism, reproach, persecution. The Apostle Paul faced all of these. Other people were always criticizing him, always arguing with him, even dragging him before the authorities to be punished. And there are also the things that come from within. The doubts, the fears, the failures. Paul also felt that. In his preaching, he quite often felt that he wasn't getting through. When he heard about what his converts were doing, he was disappointed. He often felt that it was his failing. He felt the weight of that responsibility. Often we have anxiety. We even fall into depression, addictive behaviours, temptations that we succumb to regularly, like what they call besetting sins. We can fall into a downward spiral of self-hatred, self-reproach, shame, and feeling of lack of self-worth. When you stand on Berkhamsted High Street on a Saturday morning, as I do, you see people walking past, and some of them covered in tattoos. They are actually writing their feelings of lack of self-worth in ink on their skins. There's a lot of it about. But for a Christian, hopefully we're not tattooed, but for a Christian, these feelings we're not immune to them, but we need to recognize them for what they are, and we need to take up the shield of faith in order to quench those fiery darts. So, in what sense does that act? How does that work? In what sense does our faith, our firm belief that we're accepted by the Lord, act as a shield? How does it quench the fiery darts of the enemy? Well, our faith is the idea is that we know that the Lord loves us. Whatever people say about us, it's not that's important. It's what the Lord thinks of us that is important. And we know what the Lord thinks of us. He tells us that we are his children. We're his friends. We're his co-workers. He wants a deep relationship with us. We know that he has a plan for our lives, that our lives have meaning and purpose, that he gives our life meaning. He really wants to interact with us, and that he will never fail us or forsake us. Whatever we're going through, he's there walking through the dark place with us. I had a friend, a very close friend, who suffered all her life from depression. And she felt the Lord call her to be a Methodist minister. And she's initiated the candidating procedure for that. In fact, she completed the candidating procedure to become a Methodist minister. But at each stage, there were several interviews, and it always came up, I see you've had a history of depression. And eventually she said, look, I have been walking through very dark places at times. She said, so dark that I felt that I wanted to take my life. But she said, I have always felt the presence of the Lord with me. And I have learned that walking through a dark place with the Lord by my side is a safe place to be. And she, as I say, she got through the candidating process because we're not promised that things will be easy. We're not promised that we will never go through dark times, that we will not receive the fiery darts on our shield. But if we hold to that faith as a shield, we are protected, particularly if we're integrated into a community of believers. I don't want to push the metaphor too far of the Roman shield, but the Roman shield, because it was rectangular and not circular, it would lock in to the shields of the soldiers on either side of you. And it created almost a protective shield wall. It's an image of the community of believers working together, defending each other, supporting each other. If we know what we believe and hold fast to that belief, nothing can touch us. It's important that through testing times we stand firm, that our faith does not fail. Jesus knew that at his arrest and crucifixion, he knew that would test the disciples' faith almost to breaking point. And he says to Simon Peter, I've prayed for you, Simon. Simon, the devil has desired to sift you like wheat, all of you. But I've prayed for you, Simon, that your faith will not fail. And isn't that the prayer that Jesus prays for us? He prays for us that our faith will not fail. Simon, renamed as Peter, became the leader, the rock that the early church was built on. He became decisive, a spokesperson for the new way. He became fearless, bold. Our faith is often tested. Why? Because it makes us stronger. It can make us stronger if we treat it in the right way. In James's letter, he says, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. The testing of our faith produces perseverance. The Christian life, after all, is not about us having an easy time. It's about us building godly character. Peter talks of our faith being refined by trials. Something precious comes out of this. He says, trials have come so that your faith, of greater worth than gold, may be proved genuine. For Peter, our faith is a precious thing. I wonder how much we value it, how much we realize how vital it is. Jesus prays for each of us that our faith will not fail, that we will persevere to the end, that we will fight the good fight of faith until we are taken to be with the Lord in glory. In this congregation, we've had recently at least two shining examples of brothers and sisters in the faith who've faced terminal illness with their faith intact and have been taken to glory, having been tremendous examples to the rest of us of how to live the Christian life, how to fight the good fight of faith to the end. Some of us are just setting out on this journey of faith. Our faith is perhaps not very strong as yet. It's not got the right conditions to grow and flourish. We have a weak grasp on the shield. Some of us are strong in the faith, experienced in defending ourselves, in persevering through testing circumstances. But whatever our level of faith, we must cling to it. We must persevere through the testing, holding on to that confidence, that assurance, that firm conviction. How much do you value your faith? Do we fully realize that it's the most precious thing we have? It will protect us. It will save us. If we hold firmly to it like a shield, we will carry it to the gates of heaven, to the shores of eternity.